Hello and welcome to the gallery. My name is Jon and today we are painting an outhouse. It's a mimic. Or that. The video today is sponsored by Outhouse, an Icelandic company that's starting out 3D printing models for D&D and, well, whatever you really want. But a little bit more on that later on. The aforementioned sponsors, they sent me this Outhouse Mimic to review and paint up and see what I can see out of it. So I saw what I could see out of it, and here is what I saw. Now here we have the Outhouse Mimic, and this is printed by the 3D printing company Outhouse, or Land and Magic. It's a local company here in Iceland that is just starting out. Facebook page will be linked here in the description, and I must say the printing quality is quite good. There are a few nubs here that I have to clean up after supports, but that's just understandable. It's not resin cast, it's 3D printed, so there will be a little bit of nubs here and there, but all in all, not that many. There's one slight problem I saw with this particular mini. That was the eyes on the door. It seems like they were put too far into the door, so there were bulges on the back of the door, which was also untextured. However, I talked to the guys running the company, and they said they were going to rectify this. So now it's just the task of cleaning up all those little nubbins and then priming it. And of course, as per usual, I will be going for a zenithal prime. Now what we're going to do here is we're trying to get a good paint job, but still using somewhat simple techniques. There will be a lot of paints coming around in this paint job, but we're still going to try to make it as simple as possible. I start with the zenithal prime, like I said, and then I'm put down a thin layer of the brown undercoat that I'm going to use. The reason why I use the thin layer is so I can see where the zenithal was underneath, and then start doing it a little bit more opaquely. We started out by putting a little bit more brown on just one plank of wood, and then wet blending a lighter brown into that, and then putting an even lighter off-white color into that, and then we'll be wet blending that off-white as well into it, and feathering it a little bit so we get a natural wood look to it. And as you can see, just a few lines, then we're gonna quickly rinse off the brush to have it off. Well, I'm licking it, and then we're just wet blending it and feathering it a little bit together. After we've done all the lighter bits on all the tiles, we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time around we're going for the darker look. We're just basically feathering in black and dark brown into the browns just to give it a little bit more shadow. And then, of course, for all those lines between the panels, we're using black ink this time around. We're not using a shade between these panels. We want a starker contrast. We're going for a little bit more fancy paint job here, but not overly so, because, like I said, I do things dirty and gritty. So, a little bit more fancy, but not overly so. And the black ink works wonders for panels just because it gives it such a high contrast, as you can see. Now after we've put on the panels, it feels a little bit drab, so let's pop that contrast up a little bit higher. We're gently dry brushing that lighter color just to grab the grain of the wood, just get it a little bit more contrasty, a little bit more starker. And now we're using contrast paints. This is Maker's Purple and Developer's Pink, just wet blended together. Just because we have that lovely texture on those tentacles, it will be a shame not to use the texture and the zenithal highlight that we have there to get something fun going. So we're using a wet blended version of two contrast colors to get that base coat going there. For the roof, it's the same as we did with the woods, just with red this time around. We've got the brown wood. We need a little bit more color here. So black red, and then we're brushing in a little bit brighter red, and then mixing a little bit of blue into the brighter red, just to get it a little bit lighter, but without getting it too pink. And we're wet blending that again, just getting a little bit of look to the wood, focusing where we want the lighter red to be as opposed to the darker red. That's the main thing here. It's focusing where you want the colors going with the wet blend here. It's not a difficult thing, but you have to be kind of careful. Now we want a little bit more grain to this wood here, so we're using Army Painter's Strong Tone, and we're putting that over the redwood planks. But be careful with it. It's a strong tone, like the name suggests. So we have to be focused and just letting it sink into the grooves and not let it flow willy-nilly everywhere. Just focus and try to get away with it. Just move the pools that manifest here and there. Move them a little bit around so it won't pull. We're also using the same strong tone on the tentacles, just so they mix a little bit better with the wood. We're also dabbing it a little bit on the wood by the tentacles, so it'll be more natural that they are coming out of the house. Afterwards, we dry brush the lighter red a little bit, just very softly over the roof, just to get that grain popping again. Just be careful not to have too much on the brush, because then we will ruin all the lovely work we've done already. And as you can see, the grain is popping a little bit, and that is exactly what we want. Now we're just adding a little bit of black ink again into the wood, into all the panels, just to get that lovely, lovely contrast look going. If it goes a little bit overboard, you can just quickly dab it off, because it's ink and it doesn't dry that quickly. Now for the tentacles, we're still using that lovely texture that they had, and we're dry brushing them. This is an purple color that we're going to just Slanesh gray, I think it was. We just dry brush that over the tentacles very carefully. We don't want to go overboard. After we've dry brushed that, we're going in with an off beige color and just getting a little bit more highlights. And beige on top of purple works wonders. It makes it natural, makes it beautiful. And as you can see, the tentacles are looking somewhat okay. Now we have to do the same for the lips. We can't dry brush them, so that's just quick layering on the lips, both on the lips, on the door and on the toilet. It's a weird sentence. Now we're going for an on the metallics, because there's small bits, and I feel comfortable enough to do it for small bits. So I start by putting a little bit of black on all of the NMM bits that I want to do, and then I'm gonna start layering in ever increasingly lighter tones of gray. This is just done with 3 colors. It's just matte black, matte white, and a little bit of verdigris and a little bit of purple, bluey color from Vallejo. I use the bluey color into the NMM mainly because I feel it gives it a little bit more of a steel look, or at least the steel look that I like. So it makes the steel look a little bit on the blue side, which I think is kind of fitting. You could also, of course, use green into that. It gives it the same natural steel look. Just black and white and grays doesn't look quite right, in my opinion. Now for the eyes, we're starting finally to get some interesting colors going. That'll be the eyes and the slime. So we start with orange, just one quick thin layer of orange over all the eyes, and then afterwards we follow that with a thick layer of orange, and then get a little bit of yellow and mix that into the orange, so we get that lovely glowy effect on the eyes. It's simple and it's quick, and it looks quite okay in my opinion. After we get that glowy effect going, we're gonna also recess shade around the eyes with the black ink, just to have a little bit more contrast around the eyes. And then, of course, eyes of this monster, they need pupils, and I have the forward facing eyes facing forward, and the rest of the eyes, they are just facing whatever way I felt when I was painting every particular eye. Now going for the teeth, we're starting with bone white, and it's quite a thin color, this Vallejo bone white. So this is gonna need a couple of layers to get, well, 3-4 layers to get a good opacity. And after we've put down those 3-4 layers, we're going in with a strong tone again, and we're just doing a quick, easy recess shade right around the top of the teeth and around that lip thing. And then on the side of the teeth, just get a little bit of shadow going, a little bit of depth to the lighter colors here. And don't forget the teeth in the mouth. And then we do a little bit of layering and getting those brightness of the middle teeth again going. And that will basically mean the end of the teeth. We'll be doing some more interesting things with them a little bit later on, though. Now for all the gooey bits on the Mimic, I started out with this lovely, lovely green color and went over every single bit of goo that is dripping out here and there, also around the teeth and around the mouth inside the toilet and on the floor of the toilet. It's a weird, weird thing to do. As you can see, around the teeth a little bit, just give it that hint of slime, hint of disease, hint of, well, disgusting. It's quite a disgusting toilet. I'm flabbergasted. My God, this is horrible. I love it. Anyway, let's continue on. And then I took a green wash and went over everything just to get that little bit of shadow and that starting of depth on the slime. Starting out with the wash, and then afterwards we're going to highlight it again with the base tone that we started with, and then ever increasingly lighter colors, just getting that little bit of shine to it. We, however, will be adding some more shiny effects to the slime a little bit later on, but having something good to start with makes all the difference in the world. And as you can see, it looks almost shiny even though it's just flat colors. And then a little bit of white just on the brinks, on the tops, on the sharper corners of the slimes. And then of course we have to start a little bit of base job because we will be having some slime flowing everywhere. So I'm putting down this Games Workshop texture stuff on the base, and then a little bit of shade on that to give it a little bit more texture. We don't want the base to be drowning out the model. It's just somewhere for it to sit. And after the shade has dried on the base, we are starting out with a little bit of UV resin, because we want to do something funky here and I need a little bit more slime in my life. So we put some lines on a plastic card or back of something and then harden that with a UV light. And then I'm just going to apply that off and put it on the model. A little bit of drop here, and we add one end of the little column that we made, and then we're just gonna fasten that to here and there. We're gonna put drops here and there on the things just to make them a little bit thicker, a little bit more gooey. We're gonna put some in the mouth, some on the other tentacle. It's gonna be fun. Just make it a little bit more disgusting because it wasn't disgusting enough already. Thicken it up a little bit and make it something nice. And now, after this, we're going in with Nurgle's Wrath, the technical paint, which is like Blood for the Blood God, but Nurgly, so it's green and gooey. We're putting that over all the clear resin we already put down. It works well together. And then we're putting thin bits of this as well on the tentacles and also over all the slimy bits. Very thin. We just want to get that hint of the same color. We don't want to lose the stuff we already did with all the slime, but we want hints of the same color that we already had. After I put some matte varnish over the entire model, I'm going over the eyes and over the slime again, and this time with art coat because I want that to pop. Contrast isn't just colors, it's also textures and reflections and everything like that. So we have to be careful to get that shiny eye, shiny slime going back again after everything else has gone matte. Now, after painting up the entire model and fiddling with it a little bit, I must say I really like it. It's quite different from what I'm used to. I mean, I've painted monsters, I've painted gooey stuff, and I've painted buildings and scenery and stuff like that, but it was fun to mix it all together into one interesting little piece. So without any further ado, here is the finished model. And here we have it, the Outhouse Mimic from Lando Töfrar. By all means, check out their Facebook page, and if you see something that you like there, order it up. It's a fairly good print, at least in my opinion, if that means anything to anyone. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here today. There are links in the description for all kinds of stuff, social media and various tidbits. You do with it what you will, like, share, subscribe, or throw it down the bog if you want to. But until next time, farewell.